What's up, my friends, and welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Hello to you, as always, and a happy Wednesday. As always, we broadcast live from the Xfinity Lounge here at the PHLY Studios. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And our postseason presenting sponsor, our friends over at TrueMark Financial Credit Union. Hello to you all, and a welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast, as we are now officially in the know as to who is going to be the manager in 2026. It's the same guy that was the manager in 2025. We'll talk about not only Rob Thomson's return, because we only got to do it very briefly at the end of the show last we spoke on Monday. We'll also talk about the rest of the coaching staff. Does that mean a return of Caleb Cotham? Does that mean a return of Kevin Long? Those two guys specifically. There's a whole bunch of other guys involved, but it's those two guys specifically that I think we'll get into. So before we deep dive, here's what's coming up on the PHLY Phillies podcast. As I said, we'll talk about Rob Thomson's tenure as a member of the Phillies and the manager to discuss whether it was the right call to bring him back in 2026 or not. And the auxiliary conversation is, what does it mean for Caleb Cotham and Kevin Long? We'll also get into the Gold Glove nominees were just announced, and just one Philly was nominated for a Gold Glove. And I'll be honest with you, it's not the player that you might think that it is. We'll talk about that in the show as well. We're also going to get into the Dodgers, because as much as it pains me to talk and praise the Dodgers after beating the Phillies, did 2 nights of watching the Dodgers do exactly what they did to the Phillies, do it to the Brewers, make you feel any better? We'll talk about that. And then at the end of the show, we're going to debut a new fun off-season trivia game. It's going to be played every Wednesday. It's going to be called Remember Me. We're going to go through 3 different players throughout the last 25 years of baseball or so, go from an easy, a medium, to a hard, and we'll see how well you, the chat, plus Andrew Frazier, our producer, step up together as a team and figure out how many of these Remember Me's we get over the next, 6 months or so, because that's where we are. But anyway, we have a lot to get into here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. I'm Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier producing and co-hosting. We'll talk to him in just a moment as well. But let's start today where we finished on Monday, which is the conversation of Rob Thomson's return as the manager in 2026. Now, a lot of people after the end of the postseason were angry. And I think there was justifiable anger, and then I think there was overreaching anger. And I think for the most part, there were a lot of people who were angry at how the Phillies lost this year and how they lost last year, and turned that anger towards the manager, which in that position is a fair place to place your anger, because while he doesn't win or lose you games on the field, decisions do impact the game. And I think when you have these types of conversations, the manager ends up being kind of the first line of defense of blame, whether it's his fault entirely or not. But I said on Monday, and I'm going to reiterate it today, I think that Rob Thomson's tenure as a member of the Phillies has been way more good than it has been bad. And we'll take a look at Rob Thomson's numbers here as a member of the Phillies coaching staff and as the Phillies manager since taking over for Joe Girardi about 50 games into the 2022 season. He's nearly 100 games over 500 in 3.5 years. He's 95 games over 500 with a .580 win percentage during the regular season. You know, in 22, the Phillies went to the World Series, winning the pennant for the first time since 2009. And that was the first big step for Rob Thomson. You also know that he's won back-to-back division titles in 2024 and 2025, and for the most part has been very good in terms of win percentage in the postseason. He's 4 games over 500. He's won 21 postseason games in the last 4 years, which is a .553 winning percentage. The problem for a lot of people, and I think this is where the conversation starts today, is that Rob Thomson, before Game 6 of the NLCS, was 19-7 as the Phillies manager in the postseason. Since that time, he's gone on to lose both, and I say he, the team, but he as the manager has gone on to lose both Games 6 and 7 of the NLCS in 2023, go just 1-3 in the 2024 NLDS, go just 1-3 in the 2025 NLDS. So over the last 10 games for the Phillies postseason, Rob Thomson and the Phillies are 2-8. It's a pretty simple reason for that. They didn't hit. in almost every one of those games. You go back over those last 10 games, and basically it's NLDS Game 2 in 2024 and NLDS Game 3 in 2025 where the Phillies bats came to life. Phillies win in a walk-off fashion against the Mets in Game 2. They clobber Clayton Kershaw in Game 3. But outside of that, it was a lot of low-scoring affairs. It was 1 run in Game 5 of the DS. It was 3 runs in both Games 1 and 2 where the Dodgers scored 5 and 4. It's not like the Dodgers lit the world on fire offensively either, but the Phillies offense just simply didn't hit. And so over the last 10 postseason games, they're just 2-8. That's a bad postseason record, which pushes Rob Thomson much closer to 500. So that gets you to that 21-17 mark, which is not a bad place to be, but it's the how it happened versus just the sheer numerical concept of it happening. And that, I think, is where a lot of people were frustrated. And that's why when we ended the show on Monday, my sentiments were this. I don't think Rob Thomson deserves to be fired. I am, however, surprised that Rob Thomson is back for 2026. And the question is, how do you differentiate those two? I think based on all the numbers that we gave you, with the fact that the Phillies have been a perennial postseason team with, varying levels of success, but a perennial postseason team, his players seem to like to play for him. They get a pretty resounding joy out of play, or at least it felt that way for a while for playing for Rob Thomson. And his numbers tell you that he's been far more good than he has been bad. So I don't think Rob Thomson numerically has deserved to be fired. But I do think that it's surprising that he's back because, as I said on Monday, more times than not, you get that adage of you can't fire the players per se. So what do? You look towards the coaching staff, you look towards the general manager. Those types of guys end up being on the hot seat because, especially guys who are locked into long-term deals, you're not going to move those guys. You're not going to, unless you find a facilitation of a trade, which for a lot of players' cases on this team is either not feasible because of 10 and 5s or not feasible because they have no trade clauses, right? So they would have to make drastic decisions, the players would, in order for those trades to be facilitated. So the likely scenario is a lot of your big-time, high-paid players who are under contract are going to be back for next year, and not just back for next year, but back for the foreseeable future. Right? For the next few seasons at least, and for some of those guys, for another 4, 5, 6, 7 years because of the contracts that they signed. That's just the matter of baseball. That's the matter of sports, and that's how these things progress. So it's that old adage of you're not going to fire the players, so maybe you look elsewhere for a change of voice. You look elsewhere for a change of leadership. And it's not to say that Rob Thomson has not been successful, but Rob Thomson's teams in the last 3 postseasons, Games 6 and 7 of the NLCS in 23 and both NLDSs in 24 and 25 have been vastly underwhelming. Their offenses have not been productive. Last year in the NLDS, they hit 196 as a team. This year, they were slightly better, but it wasn't that much better. We talked about your top 3 in 2025, Turner, Schwarber, Harper. Outside of Game 3, basically non-existent. We talked about your top 4 in 2024. Outside of Game 2, Turner, Schwarber, Harper, Castellanos, again, basically non-existent. The manager can't hit. There's nothing the guy can do if his highest paid best players are not producing. There's simply nothing he can do. The decision-making, you can question. You can question David Robertson coming back out for a second inning after getting Max Muncy. You could question the decision of putting Robertson in the first place, allowing Dave Roberts to go to Max Muncy. Against, the opposite being, would you have rather faced Call? Now, Alex Call did a really nice job against Christopher Sanchez in both games. He was on base practically every time he faced Christopher Sanchez. But those questions can be asked, right? Decision-making was questionable at best for Rob Thomson in the postseason. Some of the moves I agreed with. I agreed with bringing Joan Duran into the game. Just so happened that he had no control and walked Mookie Betts. Do I agree with walking Shohei Ohtani in that situation? Maybe, maybe not. I get the theory because it is Shohei Ohtani, and I get the theory of righty-righty, but he hadn't hit particularly well. So that could be questioned if you're feeling like that's a part of the conversation. You could question Bryson Stott's the decision to bunt Bryson Stott. If you liked the bunt, you could question the decision to not pinch run for Nick Castellanos with Weston Wilson. Knowing that Harrison Bader was going to come up later and he couldn't run, you have to put all of these things together. I think if you put everything in a blender and say, How many of the decisions would Rob Thomson like back? I think there's a handful of them that he would potentially like back. There's no question about it. And I think those decisions, paired with the fact that the Phillies underperformed in each of the last 2 seasons, are why I am surprised that he is going to return in 2026. Not entirely his fault, but sometimes a change of scenery, a change of voice, a change of leadership is something that teams consider. And that's why my overarching sentiment is, deserve to be fired? No. Surprised he's back? Yes. And that's how we'll kind of start today's conversation. What's up, everybody? Welcome into the PHLY Phillies Podcast. I want to welcome our second member of today's program into the show, our buddy Andrew Frazier, our co-host, our producer, and our friend. And Andrew, you and I got a chance to talk about this a little bit at the end of the show on Monday, but I wanted to dedicate the beginning of the show to a larger conversation.
Yeah.
Now, you and I disagreed on the sentiment of surprise. You said you're not surprised that Rob Thomson is back. You still feeling that way 48 hours later?
Yeah, I'm not shocked. Like I said, if they were going to blow this team up, if they were going to go that route, which they just can't because of the way contracts are set up and whatnot, sure. I would have been like, yeah, the 100%, Topper's gone. Now, would I have liked to have seen a change in, just leadership and voice? Of course, but looking back at it, looking back at that Dodgers series, they probably, if is all said and done, obviously there's still a lot of playoff to go, but when it's all said and done, we might be looking back at this postseason run and saying, hey, the Phillies were the only team that actually put a fight up against this Dodgers team.
It's quite possible.
And if that's the case, if that's the reality, then why would you get rid of Topper? I mean, I get the questionable calls. I understand the bunt. I understand pulling your starters in positions that probably weren't the best time to do that. But other than that, I mean, he's been great regular season, 90-plus wins, multiple years. He's just an all-around good guy. I think they like him, obviously, in the clubhouse. He's a good manager for the players. And you can't blame solely everything on him.
100%.
The bat's going cold. Guys not being able to hit.
He's not stepping up to the plate.
Orion Kerkering obviously probably should not have been in that situation. And if you didn't put him in that spot, that whole scenario wouldn't have happened, where he throws the home instead of first. But that's also not on Topper. I mean, he's not Orion. He's not controlling him. Orion's got to know that. And so I think it's going to be a short leash with Topper coming back.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing. He will be on what is going to be considered kind of a lame duck contract. It's the final year of his extension. And so I do think, as you said, like if they start slowly in 26, which obviously we won't know for 6 months.
Yeah.
If they start slowly in 26, you could see a quick hook.
I agree.
Midway through May or into June, right? You could certainly see that happening.
I agree.
But I do get your sentiment of like, there is only a certain threshold that you can blame the manager because the players play and the manager manage. And I've said to you plenty of times, I think over the course of a regular season, the best managers in baseball, the guys that I have circled this year, to me, the manager of the year is actually an interesting conversation because I think there's a bell curve in terms of when you start to win so many games, you almost get okay, well, your team's expected to win. It's like why if the Dodgers were to win another 100 games, Dave Roberts probably doesn't win manager of the year because the Dodgers are the Dodgers.
Sure.
But in this case, this season, you may see the two most winning clubs have their manager win manager of the year because they were both unexpected, right?
Yeah.
Pat Murphy, I think, is one of the best managers in baseball. We've learned that over the last 2 years. Brewers were written off. I said the Brewers were going to suck this year, and they might lose in the NLCS, but they were the best team in baseball record-wise all season.
Yeah.
Pat Murphy's done an excellent job. The other guy is John Snyder with the Blue Jays, who this was his last ride, and this was the Blue Jays group probably last ride prior to the extension of Laddie, prior to what's the conversation going to be about Bo Bichette. But that team has underperformed in the last couple of seasons.
Yeah.
John Snyder's done an excellent job with that group as well. You might see a rare, hey, the two best teams in terms of records, their managers were just the best managers. Now, there's an argument to be made about an AJ Hinch perhaps, or Stephen Vogt getting the Guardians to make that big run at the end. But I think when it's all said and done, you're probably either going to see Dan Wilson from the Mariners or John Snyder from the Blue Jays win the AL Manager of the Year.
It makes total
sense. And I
sense.
think Pat Murphy's a lock.
All of those guys make total sense.
And so when we have that conversation about like the successes and failures of the manager, I think you can pinpoint maybe 2 or 3 wins a year from a really good manager and pinpoint 2 or 3 losses a year from a bad manager.
Yeah, definitely.
And over 162 games, I think more times than not, they even out.
Yeah.
I think it gets scrutinized and microscoped in the postseason because it's a 4-game run or a wild card type of run. And so for Rob Thomson's success in the regular season, the lasting impact for a Rob Thomson team, not necessarily him specifically, but a Rob Thomson team, is 2 playoff wins in the last 2 years and 2-8 in the last 10. And I think for a lot of people, that's where the disdain starts to set in.
Sure.
I
totally understand it.
Topper's been better, way more good than he's been bad.
Yeah.
But I think that 2-8 record is where people really start to get a sour taste.
100%. And look, I mean, we were both with each other that night they lost. Mm-hmm. And you heard me up and down, blow the team up. Yep. Everyone sucks. Like, I had the blood in my eyes. I was ready to go completely nuclear with this team. Just having some days to kind of settle away from it, getting away from baseball and thinking about, what are the actual realities of this team, sure. And also like how did people actually perform. And I do think that Topper's deserving of at least one more year. Give him this year. And then there's been news I heard this morning that Alex Bregman is
opting out.
Yep. So, I mean, depending on how Middleton and Dombrowski want to approach this offseason, not my money, not my care, not my worry. But to be honest, I mean, if there are pieces out there that you can acquire to make this team better, I say you put all the chips in.
Well, and I think that gets back to the conversation you and I had earlier in the week of like, if you're going to go over the luxury tax, you got to spend bleep you money.
Yeah.
Like, you can't hit that last threshold and go over by like, oh, well, we went over by $7 million. It's like, okay, well, who'd you get at with that extra money? If you're going to go over, it's got to be like $25-40 million over and just truly spend screw you type of money.
Yeah.
And then you go challenge the Dodgers that way.
100%. And I'm reading the comments and like Futz and Elephant and all of them are talking about like, when you, or in John Peace, talking about like when you lose a playoff game as a manager, not trusting him in big moments, maybe this is his last year. I think those are all true things to say.
Sure.
Those are real criticisms on Topper. All of those things have happened. I just don't think you can put the sole blame on him. I think there is enough to go around the entire pie.
Sure.
And giving him one more year, and this maybe is his final year, giving him that one more year to see a good offseason, like we were just talking about, giving him that opportunity that it's not just a Max Kepler coming in here. Mm-hmm. It's not just a Whit Merrifield coming in here.
Romano.
Or a Jordan Romano. It's like actual good players, maybe on short-term contracts, that can help produce in this lineup, because this lineup needs major adjustments.
He's not infallible. He's made mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
I think they're tangible and they're real, and I think they existed last year and they existed this year, and it's a part to him. It's a part to his coaching staff, which we'll get into in just a little bit.
Sure.
But I think that's why I separate the two. Like, separate the should he be fired? No. Am I surprised? Yes. Because he's not been perfect, but he has been more good than he's been bad.
Yeah.
All right, let's pause. On the other side, we will get into the other coaches. Specifically, I want to talk about Kevin Long, because I wonder what his future looks like, because this contract is up at the end of this year. So he will be a free agent coach, if you will. We'll talk about if he's going to return, and the numbers say maybe it's not the best idea for him to return. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We're brought to you by our friends over at Bet365 and TrueMark Financial Credit Union, and we will be right back after this. All right, listen, whether your home needs a little bit of TLC or you're thinking about taking that big trip, you want to save for retirement or whatever it might be, TrueMark Financial's HELOC Select has you covered, and they've just gotten even better. Rates have dropped, and they make it even more affordable to put your home's equity to work. So whether you need a new kitchen, or you're thinking about big repairs, maybe you want to knock out some debt, or you are getting ready to purchase a new home, whatever it might be, HELOC Select can access your cash all at once or just when you need it with total flexibility, just like a good game plan. So make it happen today by visiting one of TrueMark's 24 branches or go online at truemark.com/PHLY and get in the game today. Federally insured by the NCUA, equal opportunity lender, NMLS number 404938. And let me tell you about our friends over at Bet365, because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. You find out why 90 million users worldwide have teamed up with Bet365, because they're the pioneers of live in-game betting. You can live stream 780,000 events across 78 different platforms each and every year. So no matter the time of day, the season, or the sporting venue you're thinking about, Bet365 has you covered. And right now, new users get up to $200 back in bonus bets when you deposit just $10 and place a bet for $5. So use that promo code PHLY365. Place a bet for or deposit 10, place a bet for 5, and get $200 back in bonus bets whether your bet wins or loses. You can use that money on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and so much more. You find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 and physically located in PA. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier. Hello to everybody in the chat. Elephant in the Room, Ray Schumacher, Futz, Molly and Barkley's Life, John Peace, K-Red was here earlier. Who else we got in the chat? Want to say hello. Don't want to miss anybody. Wilford Brimley's back. What's up, Wilford? To everybody in the chat, thank you so much for being a part of today's show. And as always, for being a part of the PHLY Phillies family. All right, let's get into the other coaches. And again, specifically, I want to talk about Kevin Long. And this is our big takeaway segment. And our big takeaway segment is brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. And we want to get into Kevin Long specifically because his contract is officially up at the end of the season. What's up, Frank Barber? Thanks for joining us as well. He has been with the Phillies since 2022. Now, what have the Phillies done every single year since 2022? Make the playoffs. Just like with Rob Thomson's tenure, Kevin Long's tenure has been filled with playoff successes, and or playoff appearances, I should say, and early playoff successes. Now, here is what the good has come with Kevin Long. Just this year, the Phillies were in the top 10 in all of these categories: runs per game, hits, home runs, average, OBP, slugging, OPS, hard hit percentage, and average exit velocity. That was 10 categories in which the Phillies offense finished in the top 10 or better. They average almost 5 runs per game. They have over 1,400 hits this year, which is the second most in all of baseball. Their average is second most in all of baseball, both of those only behind the Toronto Blue Jays. Their OBP was 328, only 3 teams better. Slugging, 431, again, only 3 teams better. Their OPS plus was 8th. Their hard hit percentages was 5th at 42.5%. And their average exit velocity, only 3 teams were better. All of those were in the 90s or better. The Phillies were at 89.9. So there's no question about it. During the regular season, that's good, right? That's objectively good numbers. They struck out less than league average. They had the 11th fewest strikeouts in baseball this year. They had a collectively good offensive season, even with some of the valleys that we talked about throughout the year, even with the runs of like the 2 runs in a series against the Astros and the week-long stretches where, you know, they were producing 3 runs or less. This team as a collective unit had a very good offensive season. The problem is that should be expected at this point from this group. It's a highly paid, veteran-laden team who has done nothing but hit across their major league careers. Between Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, Trey Turner, to a lesser extent this year, Nick Castellanos, but in years past, that's the expectations. Same thing with JT Realmuto, had a really good second half of the season. Brandon Marsh had a really good second half of the season. Max Kepler came on strong late after a putrid start to the year. Alec Boehm was banged up for most of the year, but a solid enough hitter. The expectation is that during the regular season, this team's going to hit. And the expectation is during the regular season, this team's offense should be better than most of the other teams in baseball because they're paid to be better than most of the other teams in baseball. The issue with the Phillies, and I think the issue with Kevin Long specifically, lies within the approach. The approach conversation that we have had for 4 seasons now. Andrew, you want to take a guess at to where the Phillies finished in terms of pitches they saw in the zone this year, percentage-wise, compared to the rest of Major League Baseball? Not the number, where they finished in league rankings.
They have to be towards the bottom, right?
Dead last.
Yep.
They saw the fewest pitches in the zone per team at 48.9%. Only 3 teams in baseball saw less than 50% in the zone. The Minnesota Twins, the Houston Astros, and the Philadelphia Phillies. 2 of those teams missed the postseason. The Astros missed the postseason almost specifically because of that. Now they had some injuries pile up and they ran out of pitching at the end. And the Minnesota Twins, who traded everybody, basically. They traded 10 of their 26 Major League players at the deadline this offseason. So it makes sense that a team that is full of practically minor leaguers doesn't have a Major League approach. Unsurprisingly, the Phillies and the Astros, 2 of those 3 teams, finished in the bottom 3 or in the top 3, depending on how you're looking at it, in terms of chase rate, right? So they were 2 of the 3 worst chase rate teams. They had 2 of the 3 highest chase rates in all of baseball. The Astros were second at 30.5%. The Phillies were third at 30.3%. The only team that was worse than those 2 was the Colorado Rockies, who were on pace to, for 4 months out of the year, be the worst team ever. They don't have a whole lot of offense with that team. It's a bunch of young guys and veterans who probably aren't Major League players. Despite the high chase rate for the Phillies, though, they finished with the 10th worst chase contact in baseball, which means not only are they chasing at a high rate, they're also not making contact at a high rate. They're whiffing on a lot of those chase rate pitches. So the approach within the chase rate conversation is not good to begin with. This is something we've talked about for years. It's a lot of flail. It's a lot of swing and miss over righty breaking ball down and away. It's a lot of first pitch swinging, in which, by the way, the Phillies were 4th in baseball this year in first pitch swinging at 36%. So not only are they chasing, and not only are they seeing the fewest pitches in the zone, they are first pitch swinging more than most teams across baseball, which means not only are you not seeing good at bats, but sometimes you're going first pitch digging at a bad pitch. I will never, ever tell you to sit on a fastball middle if it's your first pitch, because it might be the best pitch you see all at bat. If you get a hanging breaking ball or something left up in the zone, go get it. No question about it, especially your power hitters, your Schwarber, your Harper, even to a lesser extent. I don't have an issue. Second time through the lineup, Trey Turner, Nick Castellanos, go get that first pitch. But if it's not your pitch, the approach has to be better. And now that's 3 straight seasons of poor plate approach in the postseason. Games 6 and 7 specifically of 23, and both postseasons. It's 2 straight full seasons of poor plate approach in the regular season. We talked about it in April and into the beginning of May. It was like, hey, look at this, guys. The Phillies' plate approach has been much better. They're chasing less. They're whiffing less. They're swinging at more pitches in the zone. And then June, July, August, September roll around, and they slug when they get pitches in the zone, and they chase a lot when they don't. And so the question is, how much of that is on Kevin Long? How much does a hitting coach actually do? Now, if you listen to Whit Merrifield last season, he basically said after he left the Phillies, he loves Kevin Long. He thinks he does a great job with scouting reports. But in the major leagues, there's not a lot of fine-tuning. There's not a lot of that coaching. It's a lot of day-to-day scouting stuff, but it's not a lot of changing approach in terms of changing mindsets and swing paths and things like that, unless they're egregious. So Whit Merrifield basically said, you can fire Kevin Long, but the guy that comes in next, what kind of change does it make? What kind of outcome does it actually have? The other thing is, too, as we brought up earlier in the show, this is a veteran-laden team. It's a group of guys in their 30s. It's Trey Turner, it's Kyle Schwarber, it's Bryce Harper, it's Nick Castellanos, it's JT Realmuto. Those 5 guys sometimes make up your top 5 hitters in the lineup. And there are 5 of your top 6 hitters in the lineup. And they're all over the age of 30. They're not getting any younger. So the question about that is it like old dog, new trick conversation where it's too late to change the approach of some of these guys. Nick Castellanos has outwardly said, I don't think a whole lot up there. I just go up and see ball, hit ball, which again is fine if you're getting your pitch, but if you're flailing over top of the breaking ball, that becomes problematic. And so the other question on the other side of this is, like, is a new voice going to change that much with a veteran-laden group? I don't know the answer to that question. And so the big takeaway today is, do I expect Kevin Long to be back next year? No, I do not. Does it change a whole lot if they bring a new hitting coach in? I really don't know the answer to that question, which is problematic because I don't know what the changes are in approach with a new person, right? You're not bringing a drill sergeant in here to beat it into their heads of, if you swing first pitch out of the zone, you got to drop and give me 20 like Willie Mays Hayes. I don't know what the change is if you change hitting coaches. But do I expect Kevin Long to be back next year? I don't. And I think the other reason behind that is a lot of times the way that the hierarchy of coaching goes, the way that the politics of coaching goes, is a positional coach or a coordinator or a hitting and pitching coach will be the first to kind of fall on the sword, if you will, prior to the manager's last stand. And so I think the Phillies will probably not retain Kevin Long. If I had to make a guess, it would be they won't retain Kevin Long as a jolt to not just the players, but perhaps to Rob Thomson heading into the final year of his contract to say, we moved on from your hitting coach. It's a guy that you came in with when you were the bench coach for Joe Girardi. It's a guy that you came in with. If he's gone, we need you to produce. And not just regular season produce, because we know you can do that in the regular season because you have a good baseball club and you're a good manager. But I think that might be the way that this team goes, is that the hitting coach loses, or doesn't, I shouldn't say loses his job. His contract's up this year. They just don't retain Kevin Long, and they kind of do that as a thinly veiled mask to Rob Thomson. And I think those two kind of play in, simpatico. All right, that's our big takeaway segment brought to you by our friends over at Xfinity. Xfinity, imagine that. On the other side, I want to get into the Built to Last segment, which was sold as this is supposed to be a long Phillies postseason run. And it didn't end up transpiring that way. So who's built to last in the postseason? Well, it turns out it's the LA Dodgers pitching staff. We'll talk more about them on the other side. And I'm going to ask you one simple question. It's a feel question. It has nothing to do with objectivity. It's how you feel as a fan. I'm going to ask you the question on the other side, and then we're going to wrap up with by the way, we have to talk about the Gold Glove nominees. We'll wrap up with that as well. And remember me on the other side. We're going to break out a new trivia game on each and every Wednesday. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast. We're broadcasting live from the Xfinity Lounge. We'll be right back after this. All right, if you're looking to buy tickets to anything, concerts, comedy, theater, or how about this, your favorite teams, the Birds hit the road, you want to think about buying tickets, you can do that with our friends over at Game Time because they give the advantage back to you, the fans, with fees always included and the ability to see exactly where you're going to sit with the 3D seat map, especially if you're heading on the road to watch your team play somewhere else. You've never been to that stadium before. You want to make sure you have a good seat. You don't want obstructed view. You don't want to be facing, corner to the field or the rink or the arena or whatever it might be. You want to make sure your seat is good, and you can do that with the 3D seat map. And again, fees are always included with just one swipe, so they're not taking advantage of you down the stretch as you're entering your credit card information. They want you to know exactly what you're going to pay. And with exclusive discounts like zone deals, you can choose the section, Game Time selects the seat, and you save money that way. So with Game Time, your purchase is always covered with not only just that, but the best Game Time price guarantee, where if you find a different price that's better, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, use the code PHLY. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, create an account, use the code PHLY, and get $20 off your first purchase. Tap, ticket, go, download the Game Time app today. And while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Parx Casino, because whether your hometown team wins or not, there's always another way to try to win with our friends over at BetParx. And it's why it's the only online casino app I would use. You can play exclusive BetParx games like Fireblaze Sky Queen. You can also play blackjack, roulette, craps, poker, baccarat, and some of the great hot online slots based on your favorite streaming shows, right? Walking Dead, Squid Game, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, whatever it might be. I watched a bunch of Cillian Murphy this weekend because I was catching up on the 28 series. Might check out Peaky Blinders now to keep that thing rolling. And you can do that, of course, in the palm of your hand. New users get up to $1,000 bonus casino back if you're down in the first 24 hours. So head on over to betparks.com, download the app right now, and enjoy all the action and the excitement from the casino right at your fingertips. You must be 21 and physically located in PA, New Jersey, Maryland, or Michigan for BetParks. You love to play, you play to win, you bet BetParks. Gambling problem? Please call 1-800-GAMBLER. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Another name that Ray brings up, and I'm interested to see if he returns or not. And I think both of the base coaches, Dusty Watham and Paco Figueroa, I'd be interested to see what they're going to do. Rob Thomson is going to speak tomorrow. I would imagine that means probably somebody else will as well. He'll probably address his coaching staff. We'll be there with coverage. We'll provide you with the best coverage we possibly can, and we'll figure out who is going to return from this coaching staff. My only guess, if I had to say definitively who's returning, it's Caleb Cotham. Unless Caleb Cotham is getting a managerial job elsewhere, which I think in the next couple of seasons, Caleb Cotham will be a manager for somebody's team. I think Caleb Cotham is the best chance to return. And I'll be honest, I think it's a lot. I think it's a lot. By a lot, I should say. All right, let's turn our attention to our Ace Hardware segment of the day, which is the Built to Last segment by our friends over at Ace Hardware and Ace Hardware Home Services. It's presented by the most trusted partner for home preservation, Ace Hardware Home Services. From heating and cooling to plumbing and electric, they've got the pros to make sure your home's ready for the final stretch. And while there is no Phillies baseball for a while, for a long time, in fact, there are still baseball games being played. And it makes me think about the Dodgers pitching staff, their starters specifically. Now, I'm going to show you the numbers in just a minute. Oh, you can show them now. Go ahead. No, that's cool. Here's the Dodgers starting rotation. The four guys that have started. I combined Shohei Ohtani and Tyler Glasnow. But here are the numbers. First and foremost, Blake Snell's been bleeping awesome this postseason. He's thrown 21 innings with a .85 ERA and a .52 whip. He struck out 28 over 21. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, complete game last night, gives up a first batter home run and then doesn't give up another run, goes complete game. 19 2/3, a 1.83 ERA, 18 strikeouts, a .864 whip. And then Glasnow and Ohtani, between Glasnow's start and his relief appearance and Ohtani in game one, 13 2/3, a 1.97 whip, 19 strikeouts, and a 1.97 ERA, and a sub-1 whip themselves. You put it all together, this is a Dodgers starting pitching group that has thrown basically 55-ish innings so far in the postseason and has a sub-1 whip as a group. And so I ask you the question, watching Yoshinobu Yamamoto yesterday, watching Blake Snell in game one, watching this team win in the exact same style against the Brewers that they did against the Phillies. Now, they broke things open late with a run in the 6th and in the 7th and in the 8th. They ended up winning the game 5-1. But it was 2-1 for a bulk of the game. Into the 6th inning, it was 2-1. They win game one, 2-1. So let me ask you, Andrew, first, and then I'll ask you the chat. Watching the Brewers lose practically the same way the Phillies have, not scoring runs, not giving up a ton of runs. The Brewers bullpen did give up some runs yesterday, but they've given up 7 runs in the first 2 games. 3.5 runs per game is pretty good for this Dodgers lineup. But they've scored 2. Watching the Brewers lose the exact same way the Phillies lost in their 3 losses, does it even give you like a modicum of feeling a little bit better about the Phillies losing to the Dodgers?
Yes.
I know there's no moral victories, right?
Yeah.
And it doesn't make me feel better the Phillies season is over. But to me, it feels like that this is pretty much what the Dodgers are going to do to everybody.
I feel that way. We were talking about it on Anthony's show today, and I was just, they have hope that the Mariners will be able to pull it out and win the series, or win the World Series. I don't. I'm on the side of, I think the Dodgers are just going to run it. To be quite honest.
Oh, that water's gross.
Was that from the Brita?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tastes like I licked the bottom of a shoe.
Yeah. I would stay away from that Brita.
I might get a hand like pop out my head.
The Phillies.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The Phillies definitely they performed a lot better than the Brewers did. So it does make me. It makes me cope with it a little bit better.
Sure.
That the Brewers are kind of losing in the way that they're losing, but it also kind of infuriates me because if we had gotten past the Dodgers, I really do feel like it was for the taking.
Oh, I think so too. We talked about it before the series started. I think I said it a million times. I think you felt the same way. The winner of the Phillies-Dodgers was not only going to go to the World Series, I think they were going to win it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty clear to me right now the Dodgers are on a collision course with a second consecutive World Series.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? It's a $400 million payroll, and the starting pitching has been better than anything it's been very good all year. We expected it to be good, but they've been so banged up. It's been better than anything they could have imagined. Blake Snell has gone like full Sandy Koufax. He's been unhittable.
Yeah, he's been insane.
And then Yamamoto gives up the leadoff home run yesterday. Nasty the rest of the way. He gave up the 2 runs against the Reds in the first inning because of the Teoscar error. Nasty the rest of the way. The only team that gave him any kind of fits so far was the Phillies.
Yes.
But Snell was nasty against everybody. Glasnow's been really good. Ohtani was good in his start. So I know there's no moral victories, but I do think it makes me sleep a little easier that it's not like the Phillies were getting blanked and then Milwaukee turned around and put up an 8 spot on them in the first 2 games. They've scored 2 runs.
Yeah.
And they've not been competitive. I mean, 2-1 game, your pitching keeps you in the game.
Sure.
But it's not felt like the Brewers have been ultra competitive in these first 2 games, much like it felt like the Phillies' first 2 games, where they really didn't feel like they were super competitive.
Yeah.
So when you look at what the Dodgers have done over the last 2 series now, going to Philadelphia and going to Milwaukee, and not only taking home field advantage away from those 2 teams, but snatching it out of their hands and basically putting a death grip on the series, it makes me think that the Phillies were not good, but maybe nobody's going to be good against the Dodgers. Maybe the way that they are going to win it, the way that they won against the Phillies, is sustainable in a 7-game series. Maybe you can avoid using your lesser bullpen arms by just having elite starting pitching and then using your Glasnow, Sasaki, Banda, Vesia group to basically keep the other guys off the field. And maybe that's just the way the Dodgers are going to win another World Series. They're not hitting, at least for the most part. Now, they scored 5 runs last night on 11 hits, but 3 of those runs came late. Shohei Ohtani continues to not be very productive. He had an RBI last night, but he was 1 for 5. Freddie Freeman, 1 for 5. Will Smith, 1 for 4. Mookie Betts, 0 for 3. The top 4 in your lineup yesterday had 3 hits in 17 at-bats. They weren't particularly sharp. Now, again, they had the RBI, but it was Muncy with an RBI, Teoscar with an RBI, Edman with an RBI, Pages with an RBI. That's why this lineup is so deep and so effective, because even though Shohei continues to not hit the ball very well this postseason, it's almost not mattered because they're getting picked up by other guys and they're being carried by how elite their pitching has been. To me, the Dodgers are going to win the World Series. And the only team at this point that stands in their way is Seattle because of their pitching staff. If those 2 teams play in the World Series, it's going to be a lot of low-scoring games. But at this point, they dispatched the Phillies, who probably had the best chance of beating them in the National League because of the pitching. They're halfway to dispatching the Brewers, who were the team that we went, well, they grind out at bats. Maybe they will be the team that gets into the Dodgers bullpen. Hasn't happened. Yamamoto goes 9. Snell, what'd Snell go yesterday in game 1? I think he went 8, right? And so you get 17 of your 18 innings were pitched by your starters. Glasnow, I believe, is going tonight. And then you get Ohtani in game 4, which probably gives you another 12-ish innings from that starting rotation. So over the first 4 games, you're probably expecting now, almost 30 innings out of your starters. That's well over 7 innings pitched per start. That's exactly the formula that Dave Roberts wants to success. They've now got 3 straight games in LA. I'm not sure this series comes back to Milwaukee. Milwaukee might win a game, but I think in the next 3, the Dodgers are going to win 2, and they're heading to the World Series. Their starting rotation's built to last, and you see it as to why. That's our Built to Last segment, brought to you by our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. Again, presented to you by not just one of, the most trusted partner for home preservation. From heating and cooling to plumbing and electrical, they've got the pros to make sure your home's ready for the final stretch. All right, let's pause on the other side. We're going to get into the Gold Glove nominees, and we're going to play a game called Remember Me. And it's going to be you in the chat and Andrew as a team going up against the 3 players that I've come up with over the week, and we'll do this each and every Wednesday. It's the PHLY Phillies Podcast, brought to you by our friends over at Bet365 and TrueMark Financial Credit Union, and we'll be right back after this. All right, so if you're thinking about watching postseason baseball, I know your team's out of it, but if you want to watch postseason baseball the best way you can, you have to get Xfinity. You don't want lagging or buffering or switching between apps trying to find that game. You want to be able to watch it in crystal clear optics with 4K enhanced sound. So clear, in fact, that you're going to feel like you're at the ballpark. You don't got to get on a plane and fly to Seattle to watch a game. You can do it right from the comfort of your couch. If you call yourself a big baseball fan, you have to get Xfinity. Sometimes you can even watch 4 games at once, because why not? You can, right? And on top of that, you get real-time notification and live stats right on your TV. It becomes the best seat in the house every time. So next game day, make sure the big fan in your life, whether it's you or a friend, isn't a big fail. Learn more at Xfinity.com. Xfinity, imagine that. All right, and while we're here, let me tell you about our friends over at Ace Hardware Home Services. When the weather starts to take a dip like it has, it's gotten a little bit chilly over the last couple of nights. Maybe you're firing up the heater, and you turn the heater on and nothing. You don't want to be left out in the cold with projects piling up. Ace Hardware Home Services comes into play as the trusted local pros that come right to your front door to help get your home ready for the colder months. From heating tune-ups, plumbing fixes, to generators and emergency repairs, their experts handle it all. There's no guesswork, there's no stress. It's just local pros that get the job done right the first time with satisfaction guaranteed. So find the help that you need on your next home project at acehardwarehomeservices.com. All right, welcome back to the PHLY Phillies Podcast. Tyler Zulli, Andrew Frazier. Hello to everybody in the chat. I don't know what made me what I said in that last segment that made me say that I was jealous that the season is over. The Dodgers beat the Phillies pretty handedly, in fact. Was it because we said if the Phillies would have beaten the Dodgers, they might have gone to the World Series?
Not entirely sure.
It might be, but I will say this, I don't know how more plainly I can say this. The Dodgers are going to win the World Series. I firmly believe that. I believed that before the season started. Everybody got very, very mad at me, and I'm not trying to say, oh, look at me, I'm smart. It was just something I felt in my gut, that the Dodgers were going to pull a LeBron James Cavaliers 4 seed and go to the World Series. That's not me trying to be I'm so smart, blah, blah, blah. No. It's just, we all talked about it. If the Phillies got past the Dodgers, they felt like a good bet to go to the World Series.
Yeah.
They didn't, because they didn't play well. And the Dodgers likely will take advantage of that, and the pitching was incredible, and it's continued to be incredible, and they're probably going to go to the World Series because of it. All right, let's get into the Gold Glove nominees, which dropped today. And the National League Gold Glove nominees, every position there are 3 nominees, and then they pick from one of those 3. The Phillies only have 1 Gold Glove nominee this year. And when all I saw, Andrew, the first time was Phillies have 1 Gold Glove. I didn't see the numbers. I was like, okay, well, I could probably tell you who it was.
Yeah.
I was stunned when I found out who it was.
Yeah.
Because my inclination is, it's Bryce Stott, right? That makes sense. He's been an elite level second baseman for the last 4 years.
Yes.
Turns out it's Bryce Harper. So Bryce Harper is one of the 3 Gold Glove finalists at first base. Now, I will say this. I think Bryce Harper had a really nice year defensively at first base. For the guy to be as good as he is defensively at first base, coming from the outfield, battling all the injuries, it's really impressive, because learning how to play the first base position is very, very hard. I always go back to the scene in Moneyball where they're going to meet with Scott Hatterberg, And Billy Beane's trying to hype him up and be like, yeah, you can play first. It's not that hard. And turns to Ron Washington. And he's like, tell him, Wash. And Washington's like, nah, it's incredibly hard. Because it's not a physically demanding position, but it's timing, it's footwork.
Of course.
It's a more mental position and you're in every play.
Yes,
so
of course.
I think moving to first base is a very difficult thing. And Bryce Harper has excelled at it, and he's been very, very good as a defensive first baseman. I'm not necessarily shocked that he was nominated. I think he has been deserving of it. I'm very stunned that Bryson Stott is not a second base nominee. So the second base nominees this year are Nico Horner, which before I even get into Bryson Stott not being nominated, I'm going to say this. Nico Horner is going to run away with the second base Gold Glove award. He has been so much better defensively than everybody else with basically every metric possible. Nico Horner is not only going to win it, he's going to run away with it. The other ones are Nico Horner, Bryce Terang, who's also an excellent defensive second baseman in his own right, and Xavier Edwards from the Miami Marlins. A very good defensive second baseman in his own right. Moved over from short this year, has been much better at second than he was at short. But Bryson Stott not being on this list is very surprising to me. He's second in defensive rating among second basemen. Only Nico Horner was better. Way, way, way better, but only Horner was better. He's fourth in fielding run value, third in the National League. He's third in outs above replacement, second in the National League, unsurprisingly, behind just Nico Horner. He's fourth in DRS, and he's one of four qualified second basemen to not be in the negative in that category. There are only 4 qualified second basemen in all of baseball to not have a negative DRS. Now, Bryson Stott was at 0, so you could take that for what it's worth. But according to DRS, he's one of just 4 guys who were not negative defensive runs saved this year. I think Nico Horner is going to win this thing unanimously, and he should. He's the best defensive second baseman in baseball. I am stunned that Bryson Stott isn't on this list, period. Then the other one that I thought was interesting is Trey Turner. Trey Turner had, for the last 2 seasons, been an absolute butcher at shortstop. Was one of the worst defensive shortstops in baseball in the last 2 years. And in fact, since joining the Phillies, only O'Neal Cruz had more errors at shortstop than Trey Turner did. But this season, Trey Turner was excellent defensively. He finished in the 99th percentile in range. He was 4th in fielding run value. And the other 2 guys that finished ahead of him in the National League are Gold Glove finalists. It's Mason Wynn of the Cardinals and Nick Allen of the Braves. The other finalist is Mookie Betts. We'll talk about him in just a second. Turner is 4th in outs above replacement behind those same guys. Bobby Witt is the other one, obviously, in the American League. So Mookie Betts gets the nod, who was not in the top 5 among National League shortstops in any of those categories. Now, he did finish first among all shortstops with a 17 defensive runs saved. He was excellent in that category. Trey was at just a 2. But I am surprised that Trey Turner did not get a look, especially considering I would imagine baseball takes into consideration, like, my God, he has been so much better this year than he was last year. I don't think any Philly was going to win a Gold Glove this year. I think that none of them were the best defensive player at their position. But the one that really bugs me is Bryson Stott. Andrew, your thoughts on this whole situation, Harper being the only one to get a nomination. I think it's deserved. I don't think he wins. But I am surprised that there was no Bryson Stott specifically. Turner, I'm up in the air on. Like, he was very, very good. I'm surprised he didn't get a nomination. But Bryson Stott not getting one is like, I think that's egregious.
Yeah, I mean, I was coming off Anthony's show, and you were like, you had mentioned that, the Gold Gloves are out, and you asked, you're like, who do you think? And I'm thinking, I'm sitting there like, oh, this is a trick question. Like, it's got to be somebody that I'm not expecting. And, so I started rattling off some names and whatnot, and then you said Bryce Harper, and I was just like, wow, really? Bryce Harper over Bryson Stott is like kind of wild, because you would expect, being how good Stott is in the field, that he would be the finalist. Sure. But no, I do have to give credit, though, to Bryce Harper, and you were already talking about it, but like, it is really hard to transition the way that he did.
For sure.
And in such little time. that he did that as well. And so for him to be up there, for him to be, kind of seen as this Gold Glove finalist, should be kind of like a nice feeling for him.
Oh, for sure. He should be lauded for the play that he has had over the last couple of years defensively. I mean, we've talked about it. Like last year we sat here and said, hey man, Christian Walker's out of the National League now. Christian Walker was like the elite level defender in Arizona. It's like Christian Walker's out of the National League now. It comes down to, Freeman, Olsen, and Bryce Harper.
Yeah.
And like, there's no question he is deserving of a nomination. Again, I don't think he's going to win, but I am happy that he was nominated.
To be nominated is nice.
But it's a very difficult move. And like I said, people often think that first base is not the physically demanding position, but it is a difficult mental position to play, and he's done a really nice job at it. And so I will give him a lot of credit. I am surprised, however, that it's not Bryson Stott. All right, let's get into our final segment of the day. This is our new Wednesday trivia session. We're going to play the game called Remember Me, and I'm going to give you a trio of mystery players. And Andrew, you and the chat are going to team up to try to figure it out based on what the hint is given. Some may be Phillies, some maybe not. The only clue I will give you is everybody that we mentioned will have played from 2000 on.
Okay.
I'm not going to give you somebody from like 1974.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
They'll have played from 2000 on. They may have played in the 90s, but they'll have played in the 2000s.
Okay.
So let's get to player number one. This is kind of easy, medium, hard. It was just like 3 players that I thought of. And here's player number one. 17-year career, 11 teams. He is a 6-time All-Star and a 4-time Gold Glover. And this player has for a while been in the conversation of potentially being a Hall of Famer. Now, I will tell you, if I had a Hall of Fame vote, I would vote for this guy. He has over 2,400 career hits. His career average is just a point shy of 300. He's a 299 career hitter, stole over 600 bags, and had a very, very respectable 372 on-base percentage. This is a guy who just like you plugged at the top of your lineup for well over a decade, and you knew he was going to be a really good hitter. I will give you one final hint. This guy spent 1 season as a member of the Phillies. It was his. I'm not going to tell you what age it was, but I will say
it can't be Andrew McCutchen because he hasn't been
end of his career.
It can't be Andrew McCutchen because he has been on 11 different teams.
It is not Kutch. No, Kutch has played for 6 teams now. I'm going to say Phillies, Pirates, Yankees, Giants. Brewers.
Is it? I want to give the chat a chance to respond here.
It is not Kutch, by the way.
Yeah, they're a little bit behind us, so yeah. I just want to give them a chance. I think I might know who it might be.
Go ahead.
Is it Kenny?
It is Kenny Lofton.
Yeah.
Well done. Yes. 1 season with the Phillies, 2005. Hit 335 with the Phillies in his age 38 season.
Wow.
All this dude did was hit.
Wow.
I mean, 68.4 career WAR. I'm not a big WAR guy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, this is an elite level career.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I'll pull that back up. I mean, yeah. 6-time All-Star, 4 gold gloves.
I think he's a Hall of Famer. If I had a vote, I would vote for him.
100%.
2007, his final year in the league. He played for 2 teams. He played 136 games. At 40 years old, he hit 296.
Yeah.
All he did was hit. All right, before we give you the final 2, I want to say thank you to everybody watching on our streaming services, Xfinity, Samsung, Roku. Thank you so much for being here. Head on over to all PHLY to catch the rest of the show. We are officially in overtime. All right, let's get to player number 2. This is what I guess we would deem as medium. 14-year career for this player. Played for 8 teams. What's that?
I think I know who it is.
Do you? That's it. That'd be really impressive. It's right off the shoot. 14-year career, 8 teams, 4 times 30 home runs, 4 times led the league in strikeouts. And the last clue is he was best known as a member of the Arizona Diamondbacks. You're feeling ready to go. Go right ahead.
What? Never mind. I'm second guessing myself because I didn't look at the home runs. I didn't look. I thought I saw the Ks. Mm-hmm. And then I saw Diamondbacks. That's literally all I saw. And I was like, oh, I know who this is. But this is not a pitcher.
It is not a pitcher.
So
no.
I cannot say.
No, this is a power-hitting right-handed hitter.
Yeah, that's called being selective with what you look at. I may be stumped.
Ray, you and I are in lockstep, man. Been asking for 6 months now. Said get a friggin' extra innings graphic.
All right, come on, chat. Who do you think it might be?
Now I will say this guy. I think this guy would have a more prolonged career. Now, he played for 14 years, but his peak was short.
When did he retire? What year?
He retired after the 2019 season.
2019 season. So he
played for 14 years. I would say this guy, I think, probably would have been more well-respected in today's game than he was in the 2000s into the early 2010s, because they hadn't gotten into the like launch angle strikeouts don't matter thing. Like they were just on the cusp of it.
Yeah.
But like this guy did have a 44 home run season, multiple 30 home run seasons, including in his age 33 season, he hit 30 home runs with the Rockies.
Is Wilfred Wright? Is it Justin Upton?
It is not. No. Not Justin Upton, not Bagwell, not Goldschmidt, not Gonzo, not Finley. I'll give you one more second. My last hint is
I'm stumped.
This guy played. I'll give you the teams he played for: Arizona, Baltimore, Cleveland, Milwaukee, the Cardinals, and the Rockies, and a half season with Washington.
Half season with Washington.
Nothing.
I don't know. Chat, you got his final answer here?
All right. Time's up. You remember Mark Reynolds?
Yeah.
This is Mark Reynolds.
Oh, my gosh.
Most known as the Arizona Diamondbacks. Power hitter. Feared power hitter for a couple years. Struck out way too much, though.
Wow.
But I think he might have been more revered in today's day because of, like, strikeouts don't matter type of thing. Than the last one. All right, let's get to the last player on this list, and I will be very, very impressed if you get this one.
Oh, well, that's great.
The final player on this list played 11 seasons across 4 different teams. In his first 6 years, he hit 280 or better in 5 of his first 6 years. And I would say he's best known as a Dodger. He was on both the 2008 and 2009 Dodgers that lost to the Phillies in consecutive years.
Okay.
And had a little bit of a career resurgence with Tampa late in his career.
Okay.
But for like a 3-4 year window, this dude could play. Really good defensive first baseman in the early portions of his career. Guy that was good for average. Not a ton of pop, 15, 20 home runs-ish. Yeah. But just a guy that you could plug and play in the middle of your lineup. That was a really solid player for quite some time. Probably in the mix for, the Hall of...
I think I might know who it is.
The Hall of Pretty Good?
I think I might know who it is.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it Kemp?
It is not Matt Kemp, not a first baseman. Right team, wrong player.
Okay.
Good guess. I loved Matt Kemp. And I will tell you, I thought this guy was going to be an elite level first baseman for like a decade. And I would say he had probably like 5 or 6 good years.
Yeah.
And again, some of them kind of came towards the back end when he was with Tampa. Hit 300 in 2013.
Adrian Gonzalez?
It's not Gonzo. No, Gonzo played for the Padres, the Red Sox.
Sean Green?
Not Sean Green either. It was answered in the chat.
It was?
Yep. All right, we got to wrap it up. So
James Loney?
It is James Loney. Yes,
Loney, yeah.
Dodgers first baseman for a while. Played with the Dodgers from 2006 to 11, and then spent some time with Boston, was with the Rays, and then a season with the Mets. But it is James Loney. Well done, Frank Barber.
Good game.
And that is our Remember Me. We'll do that each and every Wednesday to wrap up the show. And that is our PHLY Phillies podcast for Wednesday. So I want to say thank you to everybody in the chat. Thanks so much for being here in this offseason. Really appreciate you. To Andrew Frazier for producing and co-hosting. Appreciate you as always, my friend. Coming up next, Philadelphia at 1:30. Then we've got the PHLY Eagles show at 2 o'clock today, which will be followed by the PHLY Sixers at 3. PHLY Flyers at 4, and then the cheap seats wrap things up at 7 o'clock tonight. We'll be back on Friday afternoon for the final PHLY podcast of the week. I'll be down at Rob Thomson's press conference tomorrow, so we'll try to get some information for you then. Until that time, we'll talk to you at noon on Friday for the final post-game, or for the final podcast of the week here on the PHLY Phillies podcast. We'll talk to you then.
We all silly like the mayor.